Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Here with my co-host. Just wanted to review UFC 290. Just break down the fights, our post-fight reactions. This was a very big event, awesome event, probably the pay-per-view, the best pay-per-view in a while, I think. I can't remember the last time we had a pay-per-view that was this just this many good fights and knockouts. Just overall an amazing card on International Fight Week UFC 290.
Yeah, I agree. This was an amazing card. I believe we had like a record number of finishes under 1 minute. We had four finishes under 1 minute. Overall, this was a night of the underdogs,
Yeah,
except for I think I counted four fights, right? That where the favorites won, but pretty much was the night on the underdogs.
I think it was actually 7-6, seven favorites, six underdogs. But yeah, it was definitely the night of the underdogs. Um, yeah, a lot of upsets, I think. A lot of some underdogs won, which we actually predicted we thought would win. But we can get into that a little later. But let's start off here first with the first fight. This was a lightweight matchup with Kamuela Kirk versus Esteban Ribovics. Now Ribovics wins this one. He's from Argentina. He wins this one by decision. It actually was not a bad fight. We saw Kamuela Kirk in the first, I think it was like 30 seconds, take him down, kind of hold him down, had that body triangle. That didn't really do much with it. Came out in the second round. Esteban Ribovics was more aware of the takedown, kind of picked him apart from a distance and just rode his way to a decision. It was a good fight though.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Kirk made his debut in this weight class. With a 1-1 record in UFC. It's a flashy fighter. Lost his last fight to Loic Rajabov. He did get a takedown and had 4 minutes of ground control, but really didn't lend anything of substance. The threat of chokes was always there. Uh, round two and three rather were spent mostly in a stand up where Ribowitz was more accurate. He had more volume, more damage, and you could see Kirk was kind of starting to fade a little bit, and Ribowitz was mixing kicks, punches, managed to get a takedown of his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good hard victory.
Yeah, he also seemed to have the better gas tank, did Ribovics. Um, Next up, we had the flyweight bout. We had Shannon Ross, Jesus Aguilera. Now, this one actually ended in a quick knockout. What was it, like 18 seconds? Just a big overhand right. Jesus Aguilera steps with the left leg, kind of changes levels, kind of sort of feint to takedown. Boom, overhand right. Shannon Ross is out in one of the biggest knockouts I've seen. I think I don't remember the last time or if I've ever even seen a knockout like that in flyweight history.
Yeah, it's very unusual for that weight class. I don't know if it's Ross's chin or I'm not sure what it is at this point. Aguilera himself is not a bad fighter. I think he lost his last fight to Tatsuro, who was actually fought on the same card.
Yeah,
Uh, um, the fight lasted 17 seconds. Aguilera faked a takedown and laid an overhand. You could see like bad defense from Ross. Both of his hands were down. Um, it just horrible defense. Kind of makes me question whether Ross even belongs in UFC. That's a bigger question.
yeah. But besides that, I think not really much to say about the fight. It just ended in 17 seconds. There was that bad decision where Aguilera changed levels, and you could see Shannon Ross kind of put both arms down, extend the arms down, and leave his face open. And unfortunate for him, just a quick knockout. Didn't even get to mount any of his own offense. But yeah, we move on to bantamweight. We had another, South African, Cameron Simon versus Terrence Mitchell. We had Cameron Simon winning this one. He was a big favorite. I think he was a minus 600. So this is something that he should have, he was expected to win this one.
Yeah, Simon had two wins in UFC. Did win the Dana White Contender Series, I believe, and Mitchell overall is all an okay all round fighter. Lost, I think, to Kai Kara-France in tough. Yeah, in first round, Mitchell gets an early takedown. Simon sweeps, threatens a Kimura from like a very weird angle. He kept
Yeah.
cranking it. Mitchell gets up, gets taken down again, and Simon submits Mitchell with rear naked choke. Yeah, it was pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah, again, not really much to say about this, although we did see some good jiu-jitsu from Cameron. I don't think we saw the striking. The striking doesn't look like to me that, top 10 level, top 5 level. But the guy's 23, he could evolve, he can get better. Great grappling for sure. But we'll have to see where he goes. Do you think he's top 15, top 10 material in this
It's
bantam?
hard to tell now. It's hard to tell now, but again, if you want to nitpick, yeah, like that cranking up the of Okimura was kind of like, I don't know why he kept doing that. It was like a weird angle he was laying. Both were laying, and you could just tell that it's not going to work. But he kept going for it. Yeah, there's plenty to learn. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, again, the guy's only 23, had a good first round win. Hope to see him back soon, I guess. Um, Next up, we had an interesting light heavyweight bout, and I say interesting because we had Vitor Petrino versus Marcin Prachnio. We had Vitor Petrino winning by, I believe it was arm triangle from the mount. Now, this was a strange one in the fact that Vitor just looked huge compared to Marcin. He looked big. He looked much more powerful. Martin seemed to be the more faster, the more agile guy. He was kind of popping Vitor a couple times in the face with the jab, with the right hand. Vitor didn't care. He walked through all that, kind of really just muscled marching around and got a takedown past the mount, arm triangle, and that was all she wrote in the third round.
Yeah. If you do a round by round breakdown, you'll see Petrino was the aggressor, and he was hurting the Polish karate practitioner. He would fire back occasionally, and as the fight was progressing, it was clear that it's just a matter of time before Pacino crumbles. Round two was pretty much the same. Petrino was just overpowering Pacino.
Yeah.
Petrino is young, and perhaps as his technique involves, and if it involves, he will have to be reckoned with, I think, at some point. Yeah, you're right. He looked like a genetically modified human. He was insanely big.
He looked big for the division.
In round three, Petrino was just too much. It was just too much. He gets a takedown, easy mount, submits Prachio with an arm triangle choke from like full mount.
Yeah.
Certainly harder to execute than traditional triangle choke, but not for the Brazilian biosapient. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's good win.
Yeah. Those you could tell he just was kind of. Martin was just completely outmatched in the strength and power department, as well as the ground. But next up, we had Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. This was another light heavyweight bout. This was a rematch from their first fight in, I believe it was February, where it kind of ended in that draw where, Alonzo was on his way to win, had the point taken away. So now they're here doing the rematch. Now, this was a lot different from the first fight. We saw a much more patient Alonzo Menifield picking him apart, from a distance, choosing his shots well. We didn't see him overextend like he did in the first round, get taken down. He was a lot less reckless. He was popping Alonso Menafield a couple times in the first round. Jimmy Crute, or sorry, Alonso Menafield was popping Jimmy Crute in the first round. Jimmy Crute took all that. Second round comes around, and out of nowhere, Jimmy Crute just goes for a takedown, and Alonso Menafield gets this weird guillotine where it doesn't even look like it was all the way in. It looked like it was just the palms, the hands under the throat. That was an interesting guillotine from him.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was just too much power, I guess, for Jimmy Crute. Um, I know a lot been made of Jimmy Crute's BJJ, him being the black belt, but I kind of questioned some of his decision making. Like if you remember, um, in the clinch, I believe in the first round, like he attempted like a Osorogari while Alonso had both of the underhooks.
Yeah,
Uh, he was attempting a standing guillotine from the clinch. It was just some of the weird decision making. I mean, I understand you have to do something in the clinch, but
yeah,
but just overall, instead of trying to maybe get the underhooks and get into better position, he was attempting like weird stuff.
yeah. He,
Uh,
he was
but
attempting weird stuff. Hmm.
and I think after the on press conference after the fight, Alonso said that he kind of un, understood that Jimmy is tired, and he was heard Jimmy grasping for air. We didn't see it. Maybe we need to rewatch the fight, but very much possible that he just gassed.
Could be. One thing we do know is that Jimmy Cruz from the first fight looked not a lot maybe, but looked a little thinner to me. And I just don't know if maybe he was really in the game anymore. And what I mean by that is because we saw that after the fight he retired. So now I don't know if this is something that he was planning on doing. He was already thinking
Yeah,
about before the fight. Maybe he's just like, I lost, and that's already I think 3 or 4 losses in a row. And he's like, you know what, whatever, I'm done. Um, you know, I don't know. Maybe it was just a heat in the moment kind of thing. But we did see, I think, a much more composed Alonzo Menafield. I think he can pose some problems to some light heavyweights, especially maybe in the top 15. He has some power, good takedown defense. Who knows? He could work his way up. I'm not saying he's going to be top 10, top 5 or anything, but he could be one of those fun fighters that you can throw in like on an early prelim or a prelim, and just have a banger with someone.
uh, Manafield showed a better game plan. He didn't rush anything. He was countering. He was countering hard. That was his game plan. He was more reserved. I guess he was the threat of him gassing, like he did in the third round of the first fight.
Mhm.
Probably was there, and just he was aware of that, and he was trying to be more measured. And good plan. He stuck to it.
Yeah, definitely a much better plan than the first fight. Next up, we had a women's strawweight bout. We had Yasmin Yaroguai versus Dennis Gomez. This one, similar to the second fight we just talked about a little earlier, the Shannon Ross and Jesus Aguilera, where Denise Gomez got knocked out. Or sorry, Denise Gomez knocked out Yasmin with kind of that same setup, overhand right hand, overhand right, where it was pretty much identical. I mean, she stepped off to the left, kind of changed levels, threw the overhand right, followed up with some very, very big ground and pound. Maybe could have been stopped a little earlier. But yeah, she puts away Yasmin, who was a big favorite, minus 400, kind of a prospect. Everyone was talking about her. And yeah, she got knocked out in 20 seconds. Not much to say.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a good stoppage. Jason Herzog, I think, did a good job. But overall, yeah, impressive power by Gomez. I think believe she registered the fastest finish in that division. Certainly not the norm. We usually the normal betting line for the strawweights is just you take over 50, over 2.5, right?
Yeah.
That's the usually the going, but that wasn't the case here. definitely. And I'm glad we didn't take that line.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That's funny. But yeah, Dennis Gilman's wins performance of the night, so she gets extra 50K. Cool for her, I guess. But yeah, let's move on to the next fight. We had Tatsuro Tairo versus Edgar Chairez. Tatsuro Tairo, a big favorite from Japan. He's young. He's has great jiu-jitsu. He was a minus 1,000. And I believe we actually saw the fight go to a decision. It was a 29-28. So there was, it wasn't a complete blowout. Or actually, I think it was 29-27. I believe they gave a 10-8 to Tatsuro Tairo for that second round. So, definitely a lot closer than the odds suggested. Tatsuro Tairo, I'm not too impressed, to be honest. I wasn't too impressed.
Yeah, and the third round, that's probably the only criticism my family. The third round actually was scored for Chairez. I believe two of the judges, if not three of the judges, scored actually for Chairez. And that's how you get 29-27, right? And the last 5 seconds or so of the fight, Chairez gets a guillotine on Tairo, and perhaps maybe 5-10 more seconds, and who know how the fight would have ended. So definitely more work for Tairo needs to be done, but he is young.
Yeah.
you know
Especially that was a mounted guillotine too, and we know how nasty those can be. You can really get a lot of leverage from that mounted position. But Tatsuro Taira, I thought he looked a lot more impressive in his last fight. He had some cool flashy kicks, some punches. He didn't do that here. He didn't do anything flashy. Maybe he was a late opponent, a late change of opponent. Maybe that kind of played a factor into him being a lot less, flamboyant and just stick to his basics and go with the grappling. But um, still a contender, still a contender to watch out for in that flyweight division. Next up, we had, in my opinion, what was probably one of the highlights of the night. We had Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price. Robbie Lawler KOs Nico Price in 38 seconds in his retirement fight. Um, strange fight again. Strange fight. I say that because Nico Price just comes out with a weird game plan. He's the longer guy. He's the taller guy. He's facing a guy who's perhaps older, a little shown to be a little slower. And what does he do? He goes to clinch with him, and it's
in the
not a
middle of the offense.
yeah, and it's not even a clinch where it's a Muay Thai clinch. He was kind of really overextending with that clinch. It was like he was desperate to clinch with him, which is very very strange to me because I don't believe that's how Nico Price usually fights. And Robbie Lawler just got that collar tie, threw uppercut hook, and eventually just put him away. And I've never seen Nico Price flatline like that.
Yeah, terrible game plan. Not to take away anything from Robbie Lawler. What a career! 30
Yeah.
wins, retires like a true champ. Just a great warrior. He gifted us with some of the unforgettable fights. Bravo! I mean, this man is amazing.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's a true BMF. I mean, I remember when they made that Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, and they called that the BMF title. I was like, what the heck are they doing? I mean, you got a guy like Robbie Lawler, you're gonna give those guys the BMF? It was just crazy. But so happy for Robbie. That was, I think, his fastest knockout ever. I think in the UFC. So great way for him to go out. Great way for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, next up we go to the main card. We had Bo Nickel versus Val Woodburn, another huge favorite in Bo Nickel. He was, I think, a minus 2,100 favorite at one point at the highest. And he did what he was supposed to do. He came out, put the guy away in 38 seconds, which is funnily enough the same amount of time it took Robbie Lawler to put away Nico Price. Um, not much to say about this fight since it ended so quickly. But I guess what we do know is that Bo Nickel definitely has power. We could say that Bo Nickel has power. whether his opponent was good or not, to the way he caught him. I think in that first 10, 15 seconds with that like kind of leaping right hook, um, kind of reminded me of that. We were talking about it. Kind of reminded us of that Ryan Bader versus Fedor knockout where he kind of leaped him with the left hook, but instead here it was with the right hook, and as soon as it touched him, you could see Val Woodburn was rocked, and it was the beginning of the end.
Yep. No. He was a crazy underdog. Took the fight on a 5-day notice, but it was a huge mismatch.
For sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just hope Nick, Bo Nickel gets a worthy opponent next time.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we get him a top 15, but someone definitely out of the top. Maybe could be even a guy who just lost Abus. Maybe guy somewhere there like that.
Possible.
Maybe too soon, yeah. Maybe too soon. But yeah, again, not much to say about Bo Nickel. Comes out, does what he was supposed to do, looked fast, looked powerful. Looking forward to see him evolve and take on higher level guys. Next up, we had probably what would have been fight of the night, uh, fight of the month, if not for the co-main event. We had Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. We had a epic brawl. Just a typical Dan Hooker fight, I guess. The guy just produces, fight of the night after fight of the night. He had a war with Jalen Turner in which he took the decision. He took it by split decision. Um, very very odd scorecard. I think one judge gave it to Jalen Turner the third round, and that's how they got to that split decision, which to me was a little wild. I think.
Yeah, yeah. You were right. Both the brawlers, Hookers, I believe, the last 4 fights came from top echelon fighters, and that's kind of negate some of the criticism against him, right? That was made.
Mm-hmm.
Turner usually looks enormous in comparison to his opponents, and now that he missed weight, he probably was even bigger.
Right.
He did lose his last fight to Gamrot, and in what felt like was an unfair decision to me, at least. Um,
Yeah.
and this was the first fight, I believe, of the card that we got wrong. This was a close fight. I mean, as a fight fan, I couldn't ask for a better fight. It was so brutal and it was so competitive. Round one, if you do a breakdown, round one, Jalen was considerably better. I felt like he was outclassing Hooker in the stand-up. Just great mix of all possible punches, kicks, knees. There was one moment though where Hooker rocked Jalen, but for the most part, Jalen was he got the round clearly. Round two, Jalen lands a clean head kick. He tried to finish off Hooker, but at some point he just like gave up on that idea. I don't know if he I just don't know why he did.
It looked like to me he got a little tired because what happened to me,
Yeah,
what it
maybe
looked like to me is that in the second round he was kind of winning like he did in the first. If you remember, he landed that big head kick, and what happened was I believe Dan Hooker kind of he started to clinch up,
maybe
and I think maybe
maybe
could be that little grappling exchange kind of exhausted him, and maybe he just I don't know, emptied his tank, and then after that head kick, Dan Hooker woke up and stole the round, almost put that Jalen Turner away, and at the end.
yeah, maybe Jalen felt like he won the round, and maybe he was afraid that he was gonna gas out. But in retrospect, I think that might have been a fatal mistake because Hooker, yeah, you're right. Hooker resurrected at the end of the round. He took over the role of the aggressor, started to land more, and even managed to take Turner down. Attempted rear naked choke at the end, but run out of time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if, in my opinion, honestly, I don't think Turner did enough to win the round. But all three judges gave it to Hooker.
yeah,
I mean, it was a close round. I would probably want to rewatch and see where the disagreement exactly is, because Hooker, he woke up at the end of the round, but most of the round it was still Turner's round.
He also
So
he,
I don't.
he also had that very close rear naked choke. If you remember
Yeah.
at the end of the round with like 5 seconds left, which
Yes.
another
Yeah.
another, another 10 seconds that could easily be a stoppage. So
Uh,
I think the judges kind of took that into consideration as well.
by very much possible. Yeah.
Yeah,
The round three seemed like the Turner recovered and started doing okay, but then again you could kind of see that he's visibly fading. I was surprised to see Turner run on gas the way he did,
yeah,
because in the fight with Gimlet he looked fresher, and that fight I thought it was more exhausting because it had more wrestling, but Turner looked better there in terms of his gas tank.
yeah,
At some point, it even looked like Turner was just going to give up. But overall, awesome fight. The difference here was Turner's cardio, or lack of cardio, and Hooker's will to fight. I think those are the difference. Hooker fought with what we know now is a broken hand and a broken orbital bone from the kick. So
yeah.
insane.
The guy's
Hats
another,
off.
yeah.
I mean,
Daniel is another BMF.
am I personally am a big Jalen Turner fan, but hats off to Turner. It was incredible fight. I mean, I as a MMA fan, you can't ask for a better fight than this.
Yeah,
You
for
can't.
sure. Yeah. But yeah, this was another one we got wrong. Yeah. Well, actually the only one, right? So, but we'll see. Dan Hooker's now saying he wants to fight Armin after this,
Yeah.
and but we'll see. He has to get up.
No, this is not the only one. This is the only one so far, but we did get the Whitaker and Duplessis wrong,
Yeah, and I
which
was
we're
yeah.
gonna.
Let's move on right to that, which was I mean, it looked like we were right at first, right? Because Robert Whitaker comes out looking like he always does, right? Throwing the jab, he's fast, he's moving in, he's moving out, throwing the high kicks, throwing the right hands. But if you go back and watch it, Dricus really didn't look bothered by whatever Robert had. Like he didn't look lost. Like for example, when Robert Whitaker fought Kelvin or Jared or Marvin, they kind of look lost. But if you go back and watch their fight, you could see that Dricus the whole time is calm, he's composed, his guard is up. He's doing something different, which is the switching of the stances, which maybe I think threw Robert Whitaker off a little. He was switching stances very weirdly, where he just like literally stepped back and then step forward. I think that all threw Robert Whitaker off. But the first round, yeah, like I was saying, the first round looked like it was going, like a typical Robert Whitaker fight. And then all of a sudden, Dricus just gets a hold of him. And once you got a hold of him, you could see like, whoa, there's a difference in strength and power. He just threw him so easily and controlled him so easily on the ground. We've never seen anyone do that to Whitaker.
Yeah, for some reason, Dracus has something about him where he manages to win fights without being really good in any particular discipline. Is 5-0 in this fight. Prior to this fight, in the UFC, is the heavy underdog. Um, Before the fight, there was a lot made of a septoplasty surgery he had to help him with breathing. And honestly, I was skeptical about the surgery because I myself had a similar surgery, and I didn't gain much benefit from it personally, maybe 10 to 15%, but apparently it did help him tremendously.
Yeah.
Um, Round one, during the breakdown, round one, Robert moving well in the octagon. He looks like he's the boss, and he throws his lunging jabs. Not really landing anything big, but kind of like more like exploring and poking holes in Dricus's defense. He gets a takedown. Dricus gets up and starts throwing everything, like punches, knees. Robert clinches, but Dricus just sweeps him down. It was like a
Hit him.
powerful sweep. Yeah, and attempts a Darce choke which surprises. We were watching it and we were like, what is he doing? He just his left arm wasn't deep enough, and we felt like he had shorter arms. But yeah, I mean, he got the round clearly. The second round, he opened up even more. He starts lands a few low kicks. He landed a hard two, and start chasing Robert around the octagon, and we starts landing bombshells to head and body. Wow, I mean, it's just good game plan by Dricus with him switching stances. He was much more powerful with Whitaker. That's for sure. The element of surprise and the element and the overpowering is just too strong.
Yeah, to me, this was a massive shock just because of the way he just it looked like again, it looked like Robert Whitaker was just on his way to win a decision like he always does. And it looked like also to me that maybe after that kind of takedown in the first round, Whitaker kind of didn't come out the same. I don't feel like he had the same bounce to his step. Also, if you go back in the corner and you in between the first and second round, you can kind of see Whitaker kind of breathing hard, and his corner is like telling, "Hey, listen, calm down, get your breath together." He just didn't seem very composed. And Dricus came out, was switching stances, landing that jab repeatedly, and he caught Whitaker doing what he always does, where he kind of leaps in with that left hand. Adesanya has caught him with that before. Jared Cannonier has caught him with that same jab, which actually Dricus accredits that jab that knocked out Whitaker. He accredits that to that Cannonier jab in the third round, which hurt him. Um, but yeah, and definitely to me the difference was the power of Dricus. Even if something was missing, even if a punch missed, let's say if Whitaker would block it, or there was a couple of points where the punch actually hit like Robert Whitaker's like chest or armpits, and you could see where Whitaker would like, he would get pushed back. He would fly back to the cage from those two. So Dricus is definitely, I don't know if he beats Adesanya, but we definitely gotta start putting respect on his name. He has an awkward style for sure, but we cannot count him out. We cannot count him out against Adesanya, especially with the grappling he has. All right, next up we had another amazing fight, probably fight, definitely fight of the night, possibly fight of the year. We had the flyweight title bout between Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja. We predicted Pantoja to win, but I don't think either of us predicted such a just absolute war of a fight.
Yes, it is their third fight. Last fight took place in 2018. In the time that has elapsed since the last fight, Moreno, you can tell Moreno greatly upped his boxing. He added grit, he added hunger. If you recall the last fight in 2018, where you could tell that he was clearly, down 2 rounds, but the round three, he wasn't really forcing anything. He wasn't the aggressor.
Yeah.
But he's is a bigger fighter also, like physically. He's bigger than before. Only Figueiredo and Mighty Mouse have more finishes than this guy. He's second place in bonuses for that division, but he's facing his kryptonite, Pantoja, who hasn't exactly been fighting bombs either.
Yeah.
And um,
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of almost like the Alex Pereira Adesanya situation, where Pereira had those two wins coming to that third fight, and then he wins. It kind of reminds me of the same thing, where it's just like, you have one guy where it's just that's your kryptonite, right?
yeah.
But like you said, we definitely did see a much better Brandon Moreno. To be honest, I kind of expected this fight to go like the second one. It was not the case. It was actually Brandon Moreno who was getting the better of the exchanges on the feet. Um, Besides for that first round where we saw Alexandre Pantoja kept hurting him with that left hook. He actually dropped him with the left hook, then hurt him again with the left hook. But after that, Brandon Moreno was the one who was controlling the boxing, the striking department, I guess. The way we saw Pantoja beat this, win this fight was actually with the grappling. He was losing that second round. It looked like he was almost done at that second round. I don't know if it was just me, but it looked like he was tired, kind of like it just looked like he didn't have it in him anymore. And in that third round, he came out, got the takedown, which was much needed, and I guess that kind of showed him like, hey, I can't win the striking, but I can get this guy down, which is what he did for the rest of the rounds. He got him down, uh, had his back for much of the next 3, 4, 5 rounds. But this was a war. I didn't expect this.
Yeah, round one he clearly won. Round two, Pantoja that is. Round two, Pantoja clearly lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Round three, you probably want to give to Pantoja, right? He threatened chokes. You have to say it was effective grappling, so he had ground control. Round four, you could arguably get to. I believe there's some judges scored differently, but to me, I would probably give to Moreno. Round five to Pantoja, but overall, yeah, it's a very, very close fight. But although one of the judges managed to score 49-46 Moreno, so he gave rounds 2 through 5 to Moreno.
Yeah, that was a little strange. I could definitely see an argument for 3 and 4 for Moreno, and I guess as well as 2 because that was pretty clear. But I'm not really sure about that fifth one because um, I think they were even on the feet, and then at the end we had Pantoja with the body triangle, throwing those little shots, threatening. So I think with the fact that they were kind of combined in the striking department, and Pantoja had that grappling and control that Moreno didn't have in the fifth round. I thought that was kind of easy to score for Pantoja in
Yeah.
for the fifth round. For a judge to give all 4 rounds, those last 4 rounds, and it was a pretty good judge. I think it was his name was Ben Cartledge. He usually is not really involved in any like robberies or kind of questionable scorecards, but maybe we just got to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
But now this is kind of a strange situation because this was like we said, an amazing fight, a one fight of the night. It was very highly praised by many of the fighters, and the crowd loved it. The people we were watching with were going crazy. But I'm wondering what they do because do they just go right for another rematch? Do they do a fourth fight? I mean, what do they do? Does Pantoja fight a Brandon Royval who he actually put away, I think, 2 fights ago? Or does Pantoja fight, an Amir Abazi who kind of got a decision who he shouldn't have got that decision versus Kai Kara. So like, what do they do? Do they just run it back? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very curious to see it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind the fight again, except for the fact that they already fought 3 times, and this would be the fourth fight. So this would be like the second time Brandon Moreno's fighting another opponent for the fourth time, which is it sucks to be that guy. You just fighting the same people over and over. It must be very hard to be motivated to fight for the same guy. But yeah, we go from one fight of the night, awesome back and forth battle to Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. This was for the undisputed featherweight title bout. Volkanovski had the championship, of course. Yair had the interim champion, and we go again, like we go from one fight of the night to kind of just domination. We have domination from Alexander Volkanovski putting away Yair in the third round by TKO.
Yeah. Only Aldo, I think, has more title defense wins, 8 than Volk. Volk has 5 prior to this fight. Volk is a universal soldier. He can do it all. Plus insane cardio, plus high fight IQ, plus physical strength, plus good chin. So Volk is in just you can think of a better fighter than Volk. Even in theory, you can design one.
Yeah.
But I mean, this time he's facing a true Taekwondo black belt, and I mean it, a true Taekwondo, because I mean, we've seen Taekwondo black belts, right? He's got fast kicks, extraordinary striking. Um, Round one, both fighters are very cautious. Yair throws body kicks. Alex catches the body kick, takes Yair down, heavy ground and pound, opens the cut, wins the round. Round two, Yair had kicks and striking in general. They were going for him. He was doing okay. Um, Volk, I believe, had a few takedowns, and again beats up Yair ground and pound.
Hmm.
Um, and you can tell like Volk at this point has discovered the key to the victory, which is wrestling. And that's what we've said in our predictions to prior to the event. We said, well, it would be silly for Volk just to stay and train and trade and kick and punch. You know, he's got to take him down and ground and pound, and that's what he did in the third round. Yair, third round, Yair gets the kicks going even more, but then makes a really silly mistake of slugging it out with Volk instead of keeping the distance. Volk stunned Yair with a right hook and pressed him to the cage and flurry of punches. He just clasped his hands behind Yair and swept him. It's like basically ragdolling him.
Yeah.
And just destroyed him with the ground and pound.
Yeah, that whole sequence to me, that finishing sequence, that where he hurts him with that right, falls up against the cage, digs to the body, Yair kind of shells up, and Volk just instantly goes for that double leg, dumps him. You can almost tell that Volkanovski's practiced that a million times. Um, and what I love about that is usually when you have, how many times have we seen some guy against the cage is about to be finished, and what does his opponent do? He goes for a takedown. And every single time we're like, oh my God, what is you doing? Why are you taking him down? Not this time. This was almost like this was the opposite. This looks so natural. Kind of opposite from, let's say, for example, Kelvin Gastelum, when he hurt Adesanya, he had him against the cage and he went for that takedown. You're like, what are you doing? But this was not the case. This was like, you could tell he did this a million times. The execution was awesome. It was just perfect. I mean, there were maybe a couple of hairy moments for Volk. For example, in that second round, he got caught by a big right hand where it looked like it maybe didn't rock him or anything, but you can tell it stunned him, like it kind of froze him for a second. He's like, "Whoa, I don't want to get hit by that again," and instantly went for that takedown. In the
Yeah,
third round, we also saw, or actually, continuing on from the second round, I think we also saw Yair cut Volk from the bottom. Was that the first or second round?
first
With
round.
elbows.
Yeah.
We saw him cut the eyebrow. We saw him cut the bridge of the nose. And then that third round, there were maybe a couple of, moments where in the first where Yair was just kind of kicking him from a distance. It looked like maybe he got his range going, and Volk maybe wouldn't be able to enter as easily as he did in the first and second. But yeah, like you said, Yair just kind of made the decision to just slug it out. And I'm wondering if it's maybe, I don't even know if it's worth mentioning or not, but there was kind of a big headbutt in the third, right to the jaw of Yair. Maybe that affected something. I don't know if maybe it's
Possibly.
not maybe if it's isn't something even worth mentioning. I don't know. It did happen though. It looked like we've seen that affect fights before. Is that why Yair decided to slug it out with Volk? I don't know, but thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, the last sequence was so fast and it was so furious. It would He picked up Yair with such ease. It looked like he
Yeah.
could have probably, if there was Petrino there or Alonso Manafelt, he would have done the same thing. It
Oh, for
felt
sure.
like
Yeah, that was domination. That was probably Volk's most dominant win, I would say. Um, yeah, and I mean,
And
what do
again,
you?
game plan, sticking to game plan. Not that it would have upped the chances. Not would have. I would have picked Yair to win the fight, but I think sticking to the plan is important, especially when you're fighting somebody like um, somebody like Volkanovski. You have to stick to your plan. I mean, we saw this with Makhachev, right? Makhachev stuck to his plan. He had a game plan, right? Take him down every round. Very, very disciplined fighter. And whenever he did try to slug it out at the end, we saw what happened. So that's the lesson, I guess. Don't slug out with Volkanovski. That's a no-no.
Yeah, the man is a machine for sure. There's a lot of debate whether if he's the greatest featherweight of all time. In my opinion, he is. I think it's I don't even think it's a I think it's close maybe between Volk and Jose, but I think he definitely takes first, especially with having a win over Jose, having never lost in the featherweight division, having dispatched of Yair like this, especially if he wins against Tapuria, which seems to be the next matchup to make, which I'm extremely excited for. I think Volk is probably the best. Again, maybe he's not the best boxer, maybe not the best kickboxer, grappler, but the way he puts it all together and his IQ, the way he sticks to the game plan. He was actually also, we didn't mention, but he was switching stances with Yair. He didn't really let him get those kicks going. I think also because of the way he was switching the stances. Yeah, the IQ from this guy is just out of this world. I think it probably even eclipses John Jones's.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but he is he's good overall. That there's you can't find a flaw anywhere in his game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hopefully he gets that surgery. He was talking about getting like some sort of surgery, or I think he needed to get like a scope for his elbow. I think the recovery time for that they say is 68 weeks, but the guy is a freaking I don't know what he is, like a Wolverine. So I feel like he's probably going to be in the gym within 4 weeks and looking to get back in there. Probably, hopefully, November, December, we'll see him against Tapuria. Um, but his next fight is definitely going to be. I mean, you think it's Tapuria or Islam?
Probably
Gotta be Tapuria, right?
probably more. I think for Islam they're gonna try to force Oliveira probably take that fight
In October, yeah.
in October in Abu Dhabi because otherwise he has no opponent. And Islam, it's sort of like a given that he's on that card, right? The
Right.
given he's in a Muslim country and he's beloved by the fans there, and he has to sort of be there on that card. Everybody wants him. It's usually you every event in Abu Dhabi, you have at least 4 or 5 Dagestani fighters, right,
Mhm.
on that card. So they would want to see their champion there, and he's their champion, technically, right? They want to see him on that card. Yeah, interesting, very interesting. Yeah, Dana White didn't want to reveal any plans on that. I mean, maybe they just don't have any plans for that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with Oliveira saying that he can make it to October, which I think they're probably going to convince him. He's probably having like nightmares of the last Abu Dhabi trip. But but yeah, I mean, in any case, this was a UFC 290 was an amazing pay-per-view. Definitely one for the ages. I think this is probably going to be one of those cards. When you think of UFC, you think of, UFC 100, you think of UFC 200, 205, 217. I think 290 is going to be one of those cards that we're gonna be thinking about and talking about for a while.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are our thoughts on the co-main event, main event, the whole card. Um, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and we'll see you for the next. I don't know if we're gonna talk about Holly Holm versus Bueno Silva. I don't know if we're gonna be doing predictions about that one. But yeah, catch us in the next one. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.